Welcome. My name is Jill Williams, and I'd like to introduce you to Brosna, County Kerry. This is a photo of the village. The road going up from the cross goes up the hill here, past some multicoloured houses, nice, bright and cheerful, past the Catholic church and the old graveyard, up the hill and out of the village. I first visited Brosna in 2003 when we drove my mother down to a family funeral. Her cousin Bill Downey had died. We went into the church there, which was full of people, and I discovered that over half those people, almost all of whom I'd never seen before, were actually related to me. So what got me interested in researching Brosna? Well, my great-grandfather, William Cotter, came from Brosna. He was born about 1849. About, because of course this was before the start of civil registration in Ireland, which happened in 1864. And it's before church records in Brosna, which only started in the late 1860s. So William was born during the Great Hunger. He trained as a teacher, moved to County Cork, where he taught, found a wife, reared a family, and by 1911 had moved back to Brosna. So he was in Brosna when the census took place in 1911. This showed there was 1,353 people in the district, spread across 253 households. This photo here shows William in the middle, his wife Kate, 4 of their sons at the back, and their daughter Bridget here. William was a younger son. His older brother Nicholas took over the family farm. So he was born before the time that there was easy records available to find out about the life of him and his family. So that leads me to research the area. So where exactly is Brosna? Well, Brosna is in northeast Kerry, just near the border, the Limerick-Kerry border and the Cork-Kerry border. Looking at old maps, the Ordnance Survey 6-inch map here, a piece, and you see the road going up from the cross, up along through the village, past the Catholic church here, up the top of the hill. And then looking at a more modern map, this is from Google. We have the crossroads there, the road going up along, past the church here, the graveyard there, up the hill to the sports ground and the GAA club. So then I had a look at Samuel Griffith's Topographical Dictionary of Ireland, 1837. And this tells me about the parish of Brosna, that it was approximately 10 miles north by east from Castle Island, containing 2,168 inhabitants, so considerably more than in 1911. It gives the situation of it and goes on to talk about a large portion of it being coarse mountain pasture and bogland, that there's almost 18,000 statute acres in the locality. And the bog, this is bogland that might be reclaimed. It talks about a new 8-mile road being built at the time of the Catholic, talks of the Catholic chapel being thatched but commodious, and that there are 2 private schools in the area in which about 120 children are educated. A search of newspapers brought me the Irish Builder for December 1868 and provided a picture, some plans of the new church. The old thatched church was knocked down, and the new church that I visited and you saw previously was being built for an estimated cost of £2,000. The National Library of Ireland website confirmed that the church records from there only started in the late 1860s. A visit to the church gave me baptismal font, where over the last 160 years, many members of my extended family were baptised. And here I see a family pew. Outside in the old graveyard, a visit there gave me plenty of cotter graves and a view over the locality. But I wanted to know more, to find out more about the locality and the lives of people and the occupations and more. So this is where the schools collection kicked in. Here's a piece from it called My Home District, collected by Sheila Lane in 1938 from Mrs. Lane, age 47, of Carrigean, Brosna County, Kerry. So Mrs. Lane says, I live in the townland of Carrigean, parish of Brosna and Baron of Tregumnacy. In this townland, there are approximately 14 houses and families. There is only one thatched house in the district. The others are covered with slate or iron. The name Carrigean means the little rock and signifies the chief characteristic of the townland. The land is good, but it's hilly in some parts, and the rocks are very near the surface of the land. There are 5 old men over 70 years still living here, and they tell stories both in Irish and English of olden days. Houses were more numerous in Carrigean in former days, and many old ruins are still to be seen here. The people who inhabited these houses, which are now in ruins, went either to America or Australia during and subsequent to the famine. So we're starting to get information about the drop in population. During the famine, the 10 years, 1841 to 1851, population in this area dropped by about 30%. So now we have another piece here, The Old School, collected by Kitty Morrissey from Con Morrissey, age 43, of Brosna. So the first paragraph tells us about the current school being built about 50 years ago, so in the 1880s. And then it moves on to talk about the oldest school in the area, that it was a long, low, thatched building. And at one time, the Con's great-grandfather, Con Moynihan, taught there. Other teachers were John Curtin, James Stack, and Miss Moynihan. There were 3 rooms in the schoolhouse. In those days, slates and slate pencils were used instead of paper and pencil. These slates were condemned by the authorities as being unhygienic. Reading, writing, and arithmetic were the principal subjects taught in that school. So we're starting to learn about the level of education and the actual built environment as well. So here's a piece on the local roads collected by Maureen Leahy from her informant was Aeneas Leahy, age 40, Brosna County, Kerry. The last paragraph here talks about the road which leads to Rayscala and says that it was made in the year 1879 or 80. Workmen at that time were paid a halfpenny a day, dietless. They didn't even get food. A horse got 5 shillings and people had to work from 6 o'clock in the morning till 6 in the evening. So we get a sense of working conditions as well. And we see that a horse is a lot more valuable than a human being. So where do these pieces come from? They came from the manuscript books from the Brosna Boys Primary School and the Brosna Girls Primary School. These manuscript books form part of the school's collection in the Irish Folklore Commission collection. The boys' school has 108 pieces collected between 1936 and 38, including a piece from the headmaster, Aeneas Leahy, who wrote quite a bit on local drainage systems. The girls' school was collected between November 37 and December 38 and includes 81 pieces. What kind of topics can we find here? Well, a vast array. Local cures, poets, games, local marriage customs, local landlords, place names, old houses, old forges in the district, local proverbs, cures, old occupations, riddles, pishoga, superstitions, fairy forts, leprechauns, a wealth of things. So this was all part of a scheme in the academic year 1937 to 1938. Instead of the standard weekly essay, the teachers chose a topic from the teacher's handbook. For example, the landlord wrote some of these questions on the board. Who was the local landlord? How long had the family been settled in this district? Were they looked upon as good or bad landlords? Have evictions or plantings been carried out in the district? Where did the evicted people go? So the questions were written by the teacher on the board. The children copied them into their jotter, went home, talked to the old people in the area, got the answers to the questions, wrote them out, brought them into school. The teacher reviewed them, picked the best, and the best were copied into the manuscript books. And these manuscript books are now digitised, available online on the website ducas.ie. So there's over 250,000 pages free online from over 5,500 primary schools. There's a crowdsourced transcription project. The work is fully searchable, including by title, place, name of collector, informant, or we can go and aim at the individual school first. So this last piece I'd like to show you is a piece called Place Names, and it's about an area in Brosna called Powell a Hearse. Powell from the Irish Powell, meaning a hole, a hearse of the hearse, the whole of the hearse. So this is about a glen close to the village of Brosna. And it was collected by Pat Downey from Bridget Downey, age 50. That's my great aunt. She looked a lot younger in the photo at the start of this presentation, didn't she? And she says, there is a legend attached to this old glen. In years gone by, when horse-drawn vehicles were the only mode of conveyance, a funeral was coming from some distant part of Kerry to the Brosna graveyard. It was night when the funeral party arrived at this spot. Suddenly, strange lights appeared, and the hearse containing the coffin was seen to fall from the road into the deepest part of the glen. The place is still known as Powell Hearse. So hopefully I've given you a flavour of Brosna, County Kerry, and you see that there is a wealth of information available in the school's collection, and that I hope I have stimulated you and got you thinking that it might be worth your while having a look there for the area of Ireland that your ancestors came from. Thank you very much for joining me.